Hey everybody, welcome to the True Patina Lab. Today we're going to film the overhaul on a very special watch, a 5513 Milsub. I got some pre-test numbers. It's running about 230s amp in the flats with a pretty high beat error of 3.6. All that should improve as we see the end result. I'm also planning on stabilizing the handset. There's a lot of lume in these hands and we want to make sure that they don't crack while wearing it, something like that, and fall out. So I'm going to do a stabilization to that handset. And then of course, last but not least, we're going to true dome it and make sure that it's watertight. Pretty good. Very little in terms of corrosion, which is great. I should be able to scrape that stuff off. Another dead giveaway that a watch either has never been serviced or hasn't been serviced in a long time is the fact that the gasket sort of compresses. This is actually a round gasket, but if you look at it here, it looks like it's a flat gasket because it's been sitting in this ravine for so long. So, signs of there may be a little bit of wear on the screws, so it's possible this has been serviced in the past. Get the hands lined up, ready for removal. Looks like we have a couple areas to address cosmetically, but overall, very, very good shape. I'm just doing a little pre-cleaning right now. These greases are particularly heavy and tend to muck up the solutions, so I like to try to get things as clean as possible before they go into the solutions so that the solutions can do their job as best as possible. So now this is ready to go. And then I'll put this down here. And a lid. I'm going to prep the case for cleaning. Got really lucky with this case because a lot of times watches like this have very corroded case backs and mid cases. This one so far, very, very well preserved. Sometimes these gaskets, when they get old enough, they just corrode and turn into these sort of hard, brittle, plasticky things. This is just prepping it to be cleaned. These two are not as bad. At least I didn't have to dig them out, so that was a nice relief. Let's take this bezel and crystal off. It's pretty dirty as expected. So because I'm taking this crystal off, I'm using an alcohol solution on this swab, but if this were a crystal I wanted to keep on this watch, I would not put alcohol near it. And that applies to any acrylic crystal, whether it's True Dome or whether it's Rolex. Acrylic and alcohol do not mix and will cause cracking. Okay. Quite some time without service, so understandably there's plenty of corrosion to address. We should be able to get this off though. As you can see, this is coming off well, thankfully. Pegwood is softer than steel, but harder than this corrosion, so it helps us to remove corrosion. Take that insert out of there, and I'm just going to clean the bezel ring. Now, you never clean the bezel insert with the abrasive chemicals, because that can fade them or cause them to turn colors. So I will clean this separately with just some dry pegwood. After I break a watch down, I like to completely reset and clean my workspace. I don't want to have clutter around me when I'm working on a watch. To break down and rebuild are two very different things. Oil off gases that have, for whatever reason or another, migrated to being around the plots or like attached to the plots, maybe coinciding with some sort of moisture ingress, and that's what that is. So we're a few hours in at this point, and we have cleaned all the parts, put them out, actually did a double clean on them. We epilomed the escape wheel, the pallet fork, the reversers, the fourth wheel, the reduction wheel on the auto work. I serviced the barrel, and I also cleaned off the dial, which you'll have seen as well, which was a very complex process and it took some time, but I did that while all the parts were in the auto cleaners. So at this point we're on to reassembly. And I'm going to start with taking this sharpened pegwood and pegging all of the jewel holes to make sure that they are 100% as clean as possible, such that there's no friction to reduce the spinning action of the gears in the jewels. I'm noticing that the cannon pinion is a little bit worn, and what I'm going to do is buff it down a little bit. And this will ensure that the interaction between the hour wheel and the cannon pinion is nice and smooth. And now to install the drive wheel over the third wheel, and true if necessary. Sometimes these become out of flat due to removal. Side, but let's see what happens when we adjust the meter. Well, let's see if we take the friction spring off. That might also increase our amp. Yeah, that did get us down to 10 more degrees. So let me reduce tension on the friction spring. I'm going to check the end shape of the balance. Alright, so that's good. It's looking good. It's looking solid. Alright, let's get the auto work together. So what I'm doing now is I'm stabilizing these hands. They are in really good shape, but I don't want to take the risk that wearing the watch, they would possibly crack. Especially these sword hands have a lot of surface area for the loom. It used to be the case that if you stabilized hands, it would risk changing the color of them. Well, if you want to make sure that you don't alter the coloration of your original hands, then you have to actually match the color of the hands perfectly. You can't just apply a stabilizing agent without doing a match. So that's actually why, people ask sometimes, well, why is a hand match the same cost or price as stabilization? This is why, because it's exactly the same process. It's just that in order to not change that color, we have to match it perfectly. Just trying to get the application as thin as possible so that it does what it needs to do without altering the profile, the thickness of the hand. Strap burn there. It's pretty cool. This is my favorite strap so far. It almost has like this kind of teal coloration to it a little bit, but sometimes you need to flex with an 18. The reason people put 18 millimeter straps on a watch with fixed bars, it's really just a flex to show off the fixed bars. I actually kind of dig it.
Matches your shirt too.
Right? It'd be funny if I didn't strap it on properly and it fell off and broke. But there it is.